why I started this Mormon Like Me channel is, well, it was inspired by Clark Johnson, who I watched one of his videos on YouTube where he was talking about how he had just recently been in contact with this kid from BYU, and how they were going to talk on the phone. He was having some problems, and then the next day he got like an email blast from the guy's email from somebody in his family saying, if you're on this email list, we just want to let you know that he committed suicide yesterday, and blah, 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 blah. And it was because of the pressure of being gay in that environment. Just to hear that story brought back so many memories, and just to think of what a waste it was, and to think it was all these many years later, and this is still an issue that guys and women are still killing themselves when they're so young, like when they're 17 years old, 18 years old, 19 years old, before they've even had a chance to get out and realize that the world is big and beautiful and not scary and awful and ugly like they're being told. But that, there's a wonderful world waiting for them, and that they have lots of choices on what their life will become. Growing up, I was always just outright told, like from the media and church and everything, that if you are gay, you will become a prostitute, you will be a drug addict, and you will die young from AIDS. That was the only option. That's what will happen to you. If you're gay, that's what will happen to you. Or you can be embraced by our community and be loved by all if you just get married and, have kids. So then it's like, I don't know. So then you start to think, well, maybe suicide is a pretty good option at this point. You think about it, and most of the people I interview, I always ask that question, have you ever contemplated suicide? It's about a 50-50, which is pretty high. I mean, I was definitely there. There were times in high school where, I went down, I was in my father's drawer. I knew, he had a .22 pistol. I knew where the bullets were, where to put them in. I knew in our storage closet, as all Mormons have, a food storage closet. I knew where the other hunting guns were, and, I figured out, okay, I never actually got to the point where I had a gun in my mouth, but there was a time where I was like, why am I thinking about this so much? Why can't I get these thoughts out of my head? Growing up, I never thought I would live to be this old. I never thought, it never crossed my mind, because there was never a time in my life as a young Mormon boy, and this is very strange, that I ever thought I would have a family or be married. I never thought that would, it was never something where I thought, yeah, I'm going to be married someday. Never. It never entered my mind. So then I'm like, well, if I'm not going to that point, I'm probably not going anywhere.
Right.
But now I'm starting to think, oh wait, I could live to be pretty old. Life is beautiful. In the church, it was taught that it was like unto murder. It was actually worse than murder. It was worse than being a murderer of people. It's like killing somebody. So if you're getting that message, that you're worse than the lowest of the low, that you're worse than murder, it would be better that you were dead than live this life. It's pretty hard. I was kind of on the cusp where when I went to school, everything before that, they said very strictly, if you think you're gay, and there's no such thing as gay, but if you have same-sex attraction that can easily be cured, or surely be cured, what you need to do is marry somebody, and that will fix it. And not only because you'll finally know what it's like to be with a woman, but you'll also be keeping God's commandments, and He'll bless you and He'll make you straight. So that was the advice they gave everybody. And at the same time, BYU was also engaging in the whole reparative therapy craze. You can meet people who it happened to, where they hook up the electrodes to your genitals, to your nipples, and they shock you while you watch porn. And
how long ago does this go back?
Well, that is very controversial as well. I mean, definitely through the 60s, 70s. But then they say that, oh, the last time it happened was whenever, probably early 80s or something. Right. The sick thing about it is you could get people to volunteer to go into this kind of therapy. And it will mess you up psychologically for the rest of your life. It just makes you wonder, like, how is this inspired in any way by anything spiritually good?
Has there been any evolution
Yes.
in terms of the word at either within the church or at BYU?
It's funny.
Vis-a-vis gay issues?
They still have a hard time with the word gay. They want it to be some idea or something, so they call it same-sex attraction, or
Same-gender
they
attraction.
call it an attraction or something like that, instead of just what you are. They don't want it to be a label of what you are. They want it to be something that's outside of you, that happens to you or something. And then they have also changed their policy on if you say you're gay, they say do not marry. Now they've changed that because so many women's lives and men's lives have been ruined from going into marriages, in mixed orientation marriages where one person is gay and one person is straight. And those kind of marriages can't work. Or they can work. They can work. They usually don't. It depends on what you're looking for in a marriage.
Right.
Or out of life or whatever. But I mean, they can work, but not in the same way. It's definitely something different. The Mormon Church, to me, like if you do your research, it seems like the fastest evolving religion, like what the temple ceremony used to be to how many times it's changed to what it is today, what it used to be as far as blacks and the priesthood and law and how it is today.
And polygamy.
Polygamy and what it is today. I remember like in high school or college, like people saying, do you think that the Mormon Church will ever embrace, saying it's okay to be gay? And people saying, no, never. And that'll be the day when I leave the Mormon Church, because I'll know that it's then led by people who are not of God. And that's what people said about blacks. When the church just finally lets blacks into the priesthood and all that, that will be the day when we know that the church leadership is no longer inspired by God. And it happened, and a lot of people left, and a lot of people stayed, and it went on, and it just keeps growing. I don't see any way of avoiding. They're going to accept it, eventually. I will be the prophet of that today, to say, if you think Mormons will never accept homosexuality in their church, that is wrong. They will. Because the future of the Mormon Church is Mormon children, and Mormon children couldn't give a rat's ass about the whole gay thing. It was really hard for a lot of people with that whole Prop 8 thing. A lot of Mormons were really conflicted because they want to follow their church leaders, but they felt like they were doing the wrong thing. So they were really torn up. They're like, in their heart, they're like, I feel like I'm doing wrong, but but it would be a greater wrong to be disobedient or to not support our leaders. So I felt bad for them. I remember in junior high, there was this kid, Arlen Medicine Crow, who was this Indian kid who went to our junior high, and he was effeminate. And I remember, I think we took choir together, and I think we were in art class together. But I didn't have a crush on him, but we were friends. Like, we got along famously. And I remember one day I was running around with him, like walking through the halls talking, and then we started running up a flight of stairs, and we were stepping together, like up the stairs and laughing, and I was like, this seems really gay. Like, it just like, the thought crossed my mind. And he was really effeminate, and I was like, at that point, I kind of already felt like a target of being called fag, being, bullied, whatever. So, it just like halfway up that staircase, it dawned on me, oh my God, I look more gay next to him than I do even by myself. And I did never talk to him again. We were great friends. Halfway up that staircase, we were no longer friends. It was awful. And I think about it now, and I'm like, was I an evil person? How many of us did that in those situations? I'm getting emotional. Because, that's what makes me the most angry. Is just kids. We're just kids. Okay, breathe. Okay, and like the fear and the hate that was put into my fellow classmates towards people who were the meek of the earth, you know, the weaker. And that kid didn't have very many friends. I think I was one of his only friends, and then suddenly I wasn't his friend because I was scared for myself. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's shameful. Sorry. I've never told that story. Plus, I'm losing my voice. I've never told that story. It made me emotional. And then a few years later in high school, there was another kid, Dwayne Sisko. I was never really his friend. Nobody was really his friend. He was a little weird. He was a little awkward. Again, he was in choir. I was in choir. And I never hung out with him. I was never his friend, but I was nice to him. He was a nice kid. It came out, because they publish everything in that small town. If there's a crime, they publish it in the paper. If there was arrest or anyone, the name and everything in the paper. Back page somewhere. I forget. But he was underage, but he got caught at the small mall, which was this place we used to make fun of. It was this building that had like 3 or 4 different stores in it in downtown Rexburg. And I guess there was a bathroom in there, and he was caught, you know, by the police, or somebody found him with some older men, and he was in some bathroom stall getting some oral or something. I don't know what was happening. I don't know what happened. All I know is, and we were high school, like sophomores, juniors in high school, so pretty young. And he got kicked out. I mean, he didn't get kicked out, but he got found out. And I think the other men's names were put in the paper or something, and then he was underage, so they didn't use his name, but somehow it got out. Everybody knew it was him. He never came back to school. Never. And when I think of, I mean, he was like in seminary classes. Can't go back to seminary, can't go back to school, can't go back to, I mean, you're just a kid. I don't know where he went. I heard he moved, I forget, to some town somewhere else. I don't know, I don't remember the name of the town or whatever, where people didn't know, supposedly. But I went to a stake dance. A stake is a larger group of ward congregations. It's like a coming together of several congregations in the area. And I went to a dance like probably a month after that happened. And his little sister was still going to our school, and she was in our stake. And I was one of those people. It's okay. I would always like go crazy dancing on the dance floor, and boys don't really dance or go crazy, especially in high school. I'm so obviously gay. I just loved to dance. I would dance. All the girls loved to dance with me. You know, I just loved to dance. So I was at the stake dance, which isn't at the school, so it's even more strict on the control on how you dance and how you move and what you do. And it's actually in a church building. The dance is in the gym of the church building. And I was at this dance. I had been, okay, I'll tell a little pre-story. I was angry at my mother for the day. She had dropped me off at the Career Beauty College, where the students are all get there, to get my hair cut. It's the only place I could go to pay, like, get my hair cut. It's a small town. Mm-hmm. And there was a girl with punky hair there. She had her hair like dyed several different colors, and I went in. I was angry at my parents for some reason. And they said, "How do you want your haircut?" And I said, "Just do something weird. Do something fun and crazy." And this girl went, "I've been waiting for someone like you to walk in." And she but I said, "Make it so that I could change it to make it look normal if you want." So she gave me a haircut where she like buzzed the sides, and she did the front in a V like this. Like in a V like this. It came to a point like right here. So when I combed it forward, it looked like really gay, like modern, whatever. But then when I did it to the side, it kind of just all blended. It looked like a normal haircut. But I did it forward, and when my mom came to pick me up, I got in the truck, and she looked at me and she started crying. And she said, "What are people going to think?" And I thought about it. At first I was kind of upset because I was wondering, well, what are people going to think about me, or what are people going to think about you, I was thinking. And I was thinking she was worried about what were people going to think about her. If she had a kid who could have a hairstyle that was pretty gay. You know what I'm saying? So I was angry at my mother about this. She was upset, and I was upset, and I go to the stake dance, and I'm sitting at this dance, and Dwayne Sisko's sister is standing on the side, and no one will dance with her. No one will talk to her. So I'm like, fuck this. I'm gonna go ask her to dance. So I walk across the floor, it's everybody's there, all the people, and I say, "Do you want to dance with me?" And she says, "Do you know who my brother is?" That's what her answer to my question was. "Do you know who my brother is?" And I said, "Well, I don't want to dance with your brother, I want to dance with you. Will you dance with me?" And so she said, "Yes, thank you." And we went out and we danced, and the dance floor was crowded and full of people. And at the end, as the song was ending, she just, thank you. I want to thank you so much for talking to me, for dancing with me. It's probably the only dance I'll have all night. Just because her brother was gay, that no one would talk to her. Ugh. So then I went back and I stood on the side, and there was a couple other people. I don't want to use names, people might know. There was this really hot guy from our school who's on the wrestling team and everything. He's a big, tough, macho guy. Comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, your haircut's really cool." There was a couple other people that made comments like that that were supportive. And I was like, well, thank God for that. It made me feel better about things that I may have done in the past. That were phobic against myself and others, to kind of take a stand in high school and finally say, screw you. I don't know, maybe I'm still wrong, maybe I'm evil, but fuck you all. I'm just going to do what I need to do to be sane. After I had come out, I was back visiting Utah, and I went to the Sun, the gay club, when it still existed, before God blew it away with a tornado.
Yes.
Literally.
Yeah.
And I heard my name from behind me, and I was like, who knows me out here? I haven't been here forever. I turn around, and it's a guy that I baptized in Los Angeles. And he had joined I had baptized him. He'd gone on a mission, gone to BYU, and then came out of the closet, and he was at this gay club.
That's funny.
And it's big hug. He's like, I knew it. He's like, I knew you were gay. It's driving around in our car singing Little Shop of Horror at the top of our lungs, is the first clue. So I was like, okay, I'm 25 now, when I turn 30, that's going to be, Jesus was 30. When he started his ministry, when he's 32, got crucified or whatever. I was like, so that's a good age to kind of change your life. And I'm not going to spin my wheels. I'm not going to spend my whole life just staying in one place. I want to grow. I want to change. So I was like, if I haven't had some major revelation, but I'm going to live all the laws of chastity and everything until I turn 30. Once I turn 30, I'm giving myself permission to have sex. And because I knew so many people that were in the church, out of the church, in the church, out of they'd go back to church, and then they'd leave, and they'd be tortured at church, and they'd be tortured out of church, and back and forth. And I was like, I don't feel like that's not going to work for me. I'm just going to be in or I'm going to be out. So on my 30th birthday, I was doing West Side Story.
So for 5 years, nothing.
For 5 years.
You said from...
Oh, from the time I was 13 until I was 30. No sex. of any kind except with myself. But I mean, like, no sexual contact with anybody. And basically, yeah, for the next 5 years, nothing happened, nothing changed. So then I turned 30. I was in rehearsals for this tour of West Side Story that was going to Asia. And I had just had my birthday, like, during rehearsals. And then we were on the plane on our way to Taiwan. And there was this beautiful black boy. And he was asking me, we were on the plane, he said, so what's your story? And I said, well, I decided, I told him my life story, abridged version, and then said, when I turn 30, I'm going to start having sex and embracing my life as a gay man and kind of find my way from there. And so he said, well, when's your birthday? And I said, 2 weeks ago. So he said, come here. He didn't even say that. He just like leaned in and kissed me with these beautiful, thick, full lips. And so we just had a good time on the airplane until we got to the hotel. And then we had a good time the rest of the time we were in Taiwan. And I have to say, I never, ever, ever felt the slightest twinge of regret or guilt from the moment I started being sexually active to embracing my whole life from 30 onwards. I'd never had like, oh no, I made the wrong choice, or oh, I shouldn't have done that, sex is bad. No. I'd spent like my whole, just like with masturbation growing up, trying to feel guilty about it, feeling so guilty that I didn't feel guilty. Like thinking, oh, maybe that's what it's supposed to be. Maybe I'm supposed to feel guilty about not feeling guilty, and that's the guilt that is enough to save me. It's like, it's not there, stop. Why are you torturing yourself?
Yeah.
Why are you making up things to be unhappy about? It's a waste of energy. So from then on, I made up for 15 years of lost time. And, I didn't really change my life drastically at all. I never liked drugs. I never got into drugs, which was like, I was told, oh, that's going to happen. You're going to go through that phase. Some people do. Fine for them. I don't care. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. It wasn't my thing. Alcohol, it doesn't bother me. I mean, I still don't drink. I don't like it. But drink away, get drunk. I don't care. It's so funny how those are such major things if you're a Mormon. You drink coffee. Do you know how disappointed God is in you? I mean, it can be crushing to your emotional well-being if you think God hates you because you drink coffee. Or you think your neighbors think that you're spiritually, something's wrong with you. You drink coffee. It's so silly and ridiculous. Beyond comprehension almost, if you're not Mormon, to think that that God could care the slightest bit if you had a cup of tea. It sounds like a joke. It's real. I had a cup of tea and now I cannot be with my family forever in the eternities because I can't get the temple recommend and I can't go to the temple. It's beyond silly. It's sad. But anyway. There's a lot of men who identify as gay who are Mormon, that range from true believers to soft believers to leaving altogether. There's like the whole range, and people, for a lot of them it's a journey and they'll move on that scale, but for a lot of them they're kind of where they're going to be for the rest of their life. I think it's important that we kind of just accept people wherever they are and, say, cool, wherever you feel comfortable being, that's fine with me. Because I was probably in that position at some point in my journey. I think what can help people who come
here for a resource is seeing other people who have done well and who have made it and say, I can go there, I can do that, but also kind of as a tribute to people who didn't make it, and to say also to honor them, and in their name I will go on and I will push forward and I will do successful things and I will have a joyful, happy life.